On today's episode of the franchise, May 5th, I'm going to be ranking the quarterbacks in the AFC. NFL Network released a tier list, 7 tiers of AFC quarterbacks. I did the same because their list was pretty horrible. We're also going to recap the Lakers' loss in Game 2 over the Warriors, as well as the Philadelphia-Boston series. Joel Embiid winning MVP, the Bucks firing their head coach, and then a quick, brief discussion about tonight's Game 3 between the Phoenix Suns and Denver Nuggets. Before we get into the episode, as always, franchise is available on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music. You can find the Twitter, TikTok, Instagram in the link or in the description of every single episode. Excuse me. All right, we'll do the AFC quarterbacks. We'll do that last. Let's start here. Joel Embiid won the MVP for the 2022-23 NBA regular season. I think this was the right pick. I believe maybe a month ago. I don't really remember how long ago it was actually. I gave out my NBA awards. I had Embiid as my MVP. I think it's because Jokic has been more efficient throughout the season. The debate is between Embiid and Jokic for MVP. I know Giannis finished third, but Giannis really was never in the discussion to actually win the award like Embiid or Jokic. Now, Jokic coming off 2 back-to-back MVP awards, and this season, I'd say for a good majority of the season, and at least the good first half, he was the favorite to three-peat and win his third straight MVP award. He was the most efficient player. He's on the best player. He's on the best team. He's the best player on the best team in the Western Conference. He's the most efficient player in the game. But then I think it kind of switched up halfway through the season, and I believe that's when Embiid really took the crown. I mean, he won the scoring title this year, putting up the most points in the NBA per game, 33.1 points per game, 10 rebounds, 4 assists, shooting 54% from the field, 1.7 blocks per game. And then he had 13 40-point games during the regular season. Now, I didn't look up if anyone had more this season, but 13 40-point games in an 82-game regular season is a very good ratio for a player. So Embiid was dominant this season, also on the defensive end. I think it's between him and Jokic for the best big man in the league, obviously, right? They both finished top 2 in MVP. Jokic does have more MVPs than Embiid, but Embiid finally got his MVP. I think this was the year that he deserved it compared to previous years. Now, you could argue for sure for Jokic because he was more efficient. He was on a better regular – well, the Sixers finished with a better record than the Nuggets. Either way, the Jokic argument is definitely a valid argument for him to win this award. I do think Embiid deserved it this season compared to Jokic because Embiid was more dominant, I believe, throughout certain stretches of the season compared to Jokic, who was more consistent throughout the whole season. Speaking of Embiid, let's talk about this Philadelphia 76ers Boston Celtics series. So we talked about Game 1 earlier in the week. Philly won that game without Joel Embiid. Cameron can focus here. They won that game without Joel Embiid. James Harden had a great performance. The camera does not want to focus. But Game 2, Joel Embiid comes back. He plays after missing a few games with his LCL sprain. And Boston wins this game with Embiid coming back. Wins this game 121-87, tying the series at 1 game apiece. For Philadelphia, Tobias Harris was a leading scorer, 16 points, 7 boards, 2 for 5 from three-point range. Embiid in his first game back had 15-3, 4 for 9 from the field. Tyrese Maxey, 13 points, 1 for 4 from 3. James Harden, 12 points, 0 for 6 from three-point range. Collectively, as a unit, Philadelphia was 6 for 30 from beyond the arc. Starting with Embiid, 15-3 in your first game back from an LCL sprain is okay. In a postseason game, that's fine. Like, you just came off of an injury that if not healed correctly, could get drastically worse, right? And Embiid hadn't played in over 2 weeks. So him putting up only 15 points as the team's best player, as the league MVP, is an acceptable performance in your first game back from an LCL sprain. What's not an acceptable performance is James Harden's 12 points, 0 for 6 from three-point range, because when you go back and see what he did in game 1 of this series, where is it? Did I write it down? I didn't write it down. But when you look what he did in game 1 of this series, I believe he had 40-something points. He was absolutely stellar in that game, dominant on the offensive end, which is exactly what they needed with Joel Embiid out. They needed James Harden to step up and play like vintage Houston Rockets. James Harden, one of the most dominant players in NBA history. And instead, you get tonight when they still need James Harden. Just because Embiid's back doesn't mean James Harden can take that second option role. He still needs to be the most dominant player on the floor in this first game back with Embiid coming in this second game with Embiid coming back to play. Harden should have put up 30 points, shot well from the three-point range, and instead he just did not do that. I think this is between Harden and Anthony Davis. Those are two guys that if they don't perform well, it's going to be very hard for their team to win because they count on them so much. And when they do perform, when Harden and Anthony Davis perform at the highest level, it is almost a guarantee that those ball clubs are going to win those games night in and night out. For Boston, Jaylen Brown had 25 points, 3 for 6 from the three-point range, 9 of 17 from the field. Malcolm Brogdon, 23 points, 6 for 10 from three-point range off the bench. Marcus Smart, Derek White both had 15 points in this game. Boston shot 20 of 51 from three-point range. So, I mean, if you make 23s and the other team makes 6, you are 100% going to win that game. In the third quarter, I mean, Boston led this game 92-65. Philadelphia could not make their shots, and they were just letting Boston get too many looks from three, too many points in transition. It was just not a good performance for Philadelphia. Tied up at 1 apiece, though, going back to Philly. I definitely think, honestly, I think these next two games, both in Philly, game 3 and game 4, I think we will be tied by next week. I think it'll still be 2-2 series heading back to Boston. The Milwaukee Bucks fired head coach Mike Budenholzer after 5 seasons with the team. Won a championship there in 2019. He won 70% of the games as the head coach. Obviously fired after the first round exit this season to the Miami Heat in, 6 games to the Miami Heat. The Bucks have a very interesting offseason ahead of them, right? They have Giannis Antetokounmpo, arguably a top 5 player in the world. I mean, easily a top 5 player in the world, arguably the best player in the game. So they have him under contract. He's on the team. But Chris Middleton and Brook Lopez are both impending free agents. I think they both have options to become free agents, and I would fully expect both of them to go out there and test the free agent market. Chris Middleton, I think this guy right here could go out there in free agency and find a deal from a team that wants to add a guy that they feel can impact their team and take them to the next level, and he could get $20 to $30 million a season next year. I mean, look at what Charlotte paid for Gordon Hayward a few seasons ago after his tenure with Boston. They paid him $20 million for 4 years. I definitely think there's a team this offseason, if Chris Middleton opts out, that's going to offer him $20 to $30 million a season. Houston potentially, whatever. I didn't look at what teams have cap space right now. We're not at that point in the NBA season or the offseason yet, but Middleton and Lopez are both impending free agents for the Bucks. Those are two of the most important pieces to this team outside of Giannis and Drew Holiday. Lopez provides great defense down in the middle of the paint, and he almost won Defensive Player of the Year this season. He provides great shooting as a big man from beyond the arc. He's a great passer. And then for Chris Middleton, he's that second guy next to Giannis, where if Giannis isn't on the floor, Giannis is out with an injury, Giannis is having an off performance, Giannis is getting doubled, Chris Middleton is there to make his shots in the mid-range, in the three-point range. He's there to back up Giannis and be his right-hand man. So these two guys are very important pieces to this team. Obviously, they still have Giannis. I think no matter what, next season they will be a team competing for a championship. So this will be a very desirable head coaching location in the offseason. I think this will be the team, the head coaches that are looking for a job are going to want to pounce at this opportunity to be able to coach Giannis and this Bucks team that has, in my opinion, a pretty open title window right now. I think they're on the back half of their championship window. I'm going to be honest, unless they make the right offseason additions. But this Bucks championship window is still 100% open. This is an interesting little stat here. Over the last 4 NBA champions, 3 of the head coaches have been fired: Nick Nurse, Frank Vogel, and Mike Budenholzer. The only one that's remaining is Steve Kerr of the Warriors. So Nick Nurse got fired by the Raptors earlier, I believe, in the week. Frank Vogel fired by the Lakers last year, and then now Mike Budenholzer. All right, let's talk about the Lakers and the Warriors game. I don't know if we ever talked about Game 1. I honestly don't think we did. But the Lakers won that game in very close fashion. I mean, Steph Curry was giving me a heart attack in that game, making so many big-time shots. Obviously, Jordan Poole had a shot from way beyond the three-point arc that could have tied the game, and he instead misses that shot, and the Lakers win Game 1. But Game 2, Warriors win by 27 points here, 127 to 100. Klay Thompson had 8 3-point range. He went 8 for 11 from 3, 30 points. Steph had 20 points, 12 assists, 3 for 5 from the 3-point range. The Golden State Warriors are 21 to 42 from 3. But the Lakers would have had a chance to win this game if Anthony Davis performed like he did in Game 1, because Anthony Davis played absolutely horrible in this game against the Warriors. 11 points, 7 rebounds, 3 blocks, 5 for 11 from the field. Anthony Davis basically was not an impact player in this game, and that is exactly what the Lakers need. The only way the Lakers have a chance to win any game in this postseason against any team is Anthony Davis needs to put up at least 20 points, 10, 15 rebounds for the Lakers to have a shot to win a game. Because 11 points, 7 rebounds, 3 blocks is great, right? Anthony Davis was still there defensively, but on the offensive end, Anthony Davis was non-existent. And this is like the second or third time this postseason, right? It happened a few times against the Grizzlies in the first round where he just was a non-existent player on the offensive end. He was not hitting shots. He was not getting rebounds. It was basically a 4-on-5 Lakers versus Warriors last night because Anthony Davis was not there. And they wasted a game where LeBron James put up 23, 7 rebounds, 3 for 8 from 3, right? The Lakers don't necessarily need D'Angelo Russell, Austin Reeves, Rui Hachimura, Malik Beasley, Jaren Vanderbilt. They don't need those guys to always, or at least have 1 or 2 of them to always put up, 15, 20 points. But they need Anthony Davis to do that. They need Anthony Davis to at least put minimum 20 points up every single game for them to come in contention. Because if Anthony Davis puts up 20 points in this game, it's 121 to 127. If you add it's 131 to 127. Yeah, Anthony Davis had 11 points. If you give him 20 points to his 11, that's 31 points. You could honestly add 10 rebounds right there, and the Lakers are up 2-0. So Anthony Davis is the key to the Lakers winning a championship. It's not LeBron. It's not D'Angelo Russell. It's not Rui Hachimura. It's not the other guys on this team that they added at the deadline. It is all on the shoulders of Anthony Davis to go out there on the offensive end of the floor and dominate, which is not what he did in Game 2. He did that in Game 1 with 30 points, 20 rebounds. He did that a few times throughout the series with the Grizzlies. But then he's had 2 or 3 games in the postseason where he has done absolutely nothing to impact this team in a positive way. So the series is tied going back to LA. I think the Lakers have the opportunity to at least win 1, but I would not be surprised if they win 2 of their home games. If they win games 3 and 4, I would not be surprised for the Lakers going up 3-1 back to Golden State. All right, last thing on today's episode, I believe. Ranking AFC quarterbacks. We have 7 tiers of AFC quarterbacks here. And the reason we're doing this is because NFL Network released one, I believe yesterday, actually. And it was pretty bad, right? I would say it's pretty bad because of where they put Trevor Lawrence. They put Trevor Lawrence in tier 6 of AFC quarterbacks. Their tier was Mahomes, Burrow, Allen, I believe Aaron Rodgers, Lamar Jackson, Justin Herbert, Russell Wilson, Tua, Deshaun Watson, and then it was Jimmy Garoppolo also was up there. And then I think in tier 6 it was Mac Jones, Trevor Lawrence. No, tier 6 was Tua, Trevor Lawrence. I think it was Russell Wilson. I don't have it right up here, but Trevor Lawrence was in tier 6 out of 7 for AFC quarterbacks. And if you don't know what he did last season, he won a playoff game against the Chargers, a comeback playoff game after throwing 4 interceptions, I believe, in the first half. Comes out, throws 4 touchdowns in the second half, and takes down the Chargers in the wild card round of the postseason. And then he plays the Kansas City Chiefs and actually gives the Jaguars a legitimate chance to beat the eventual Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs on the road in Arrowhead Stadium. The Jaguars and Trevor Lawrence almost beat the Chiefs last season, right? It almost happened. So they put Trevor Lawrence at tier 6 out of 7. I think that's absolutely horrible. So I decided to come here and give out my 7 tiers of AFC quarterbacks. We will definitely do an NFC one next week because we can't neglect the NFC, although they have way worse quarterback play. So number one tier, and the only person in the number 1 overall tier is Patrick Mahomes. He's the best quarterback in the NFL, and in terms of AFC, he's the best. 2-time Super Bowl champion, 2-time MVP in last season, 5,250 yards, 41 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, 67 completion percentage. I think this one's a lock. He is easily the best quarterback in the AFC and in the NFL. Reigning Super Bowl champion, has won 2, and is easily the most dominant player at the quarterback position in the NFL, and he is easily in a tier of his own. No one comes close to Patrick Mahomes right now. Tier 2, we're going to start with Joe Burrow. Made it to the AFC Championship game last season, his second straight appearance in that game, and he made a Super Bowl his second year, 2 years ago now. 4,400 yards last season, 35 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, a 68.3 completion percentage. He's, in my opinion, the closest guy right now to Patrick Mahomes' level. He's not there yet. I think there's still a pretty decent gap, but in terms of the closest quarterback in the NFL to Patrick Mahomes, I do think it's Joe Burrow. We've seen it time and time again in big clutch moments, especially in the postseason, where Joe Burrow takes over and becomes a superhuman, makes incredible throws, gets it into tight windows, and really just leads and puts this Bengals team on his back and carries them to greatness. So he's tier 2, and there's one other quarterback in tier 2, and that's Josh Allen. I think Josh Allen is a little bit behind Joe Burrow, which means he's also probably the closest quarterback to Patrick Mahomes. Now, last season, kind of a down year for Josh Allen. Not really. Oh, I got a sneeze coming. He's not really. Oh, holy crap. He didn't really have a bad year last year. Josh Allen, 4,200 yards, 35 touchdowns, 14 interceptions, 63% completion rate. Right. There was definitely the story for Josh Allen last year was turnovers, especially in the red zone where he tried to do too much, tried to force things. Right. A guy like Josh Allen has enough talent to extend plays, especially when no plays are there. But he was really trying to force things to happen last season, particularly in the red zone. But Josh Allen is still an all-world talent. He has the best arm, arguably, in the National Football League. I mean, we've seen moments. I mean, look at the AFC, what was it, divisional round 2 seasons ago, the shootout between the Bills and Kansas City Chiefs. Josh Allen proved that he can be a big-time player in big-time moments when the Bills need him most. And yes, they lost that game to the Chiefs in overtime, but that was not at the fault of Josh Allen. Josh Allen played absolutely amazing in that game, and we've seen it throughout many postseason and big-time moments where Josh Allen comes through. So he's in tier 2 with Joe Burrow in this AFC tier list. Tier 3, Justin Herbert, for me, starts tier 3. No current playoff success, no playoff wins. I think he's only made 2 postseasons, right? Justin Herbert has not had a whole lot of success in big-time moments, but he has potential to do that because he possesses some incredible skills. He has, next to Josh Allen, he probably has the best arm in the NFL. It's a debate between the two. It's a toss-up. You can pick one or the other. These guys have the two best arms in football. In Herbert, last year, 4,739 yards, 25 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, and a 68.2 completion percentage. No playoff success, right? But I think if Justin Herbert is in the right situation with the right coaching and the right team around him to actually, in a postseason game, I think he can actually carry a team, and win a playoff game or two. So Herbert starts off tier 3. Also in tier 3, I have Aaron Rodgers of the Jets. He's won a Super Bowl. He's a 4-time MVP. Now, obviously, going over to a new team, not really a new system, right? He's played with Nathaniel Hackett's system before. Last year for Rodgers was definitely a down year compared to his back-to-back MVPs. 3,695 yards, 26 touchdowns, 12 picks, 64 completion percentage. I still think, though, especially next season with Aaron Rodgers being on the Jets, with all of the weapons they have, he fits to me in tier 3 because when you look at this point in his career, I feel like Burrow and Allen give you an incredible chance to win. And Aaron Rodgers still gives you one of the best chances to win any football game because of his experience and his level. Like, he's on another level in these big time moments. But I would choose Burrow and Allen right now over Rodgers. I mean, I think anyone would. 2 more quarterbacks here in tier 3, Lamar Jackson. And then this is where I did put Trevor Lawrence. I think, look, I went Lamar and then I went Trevor Lawrence. Lamar's won an MVP. He's the most dominant quarterback with his legs in the NFL. And then he's developed as a passer throughout his time in the NFL. And then I put Trevor Lawrence rounding out tier 3. I put him as the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The 6th best quarterback in the AFC. And I think that's a good spot for Trevor Lawrence. I mean, last season was a great year for him. 4,113 yards, 25 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, and a 66.3 completion percentage for Trevor Lawrence last season. Took a Jaguars team to win a playoff game. Could have won, almost won against the Chiefs on the road. I think that team with Trevor Lawrence is the favorite to win the AFC South, and I'd expect them to do so. And I wouldn't be surprised if they win a playoff game again next season. I think Jacksonville and Trevor Lawrence are on a route to be one of the most dominant teams in this conference. So that rounds out tier 3. Tier 4 is Deshaun Watson, Tua Tagovailoa, and Russell Wilson. Tier 5, I have Kenny Pickett, Jimmy Garoppolo, Ryan Tannehill. And then tier 6 is Mac Jones, Davis Mills, and Gardner Minshew. And in tier 7, so I put all the rookies, CJ Stroud, Anthony Richardson, Will Levis. Put those guys there because they have not played yet in the NFL. So it would not be respectful to guys that have actually played in the NFL to put a rookie over someone that's actually played in the NFL. That's why I've seen lists. There's always lists where people will put a quarterback, for example, CJ Stroud. They'll put CJ Stroud over Mac Jones. I believe CJ Stroud will be better than Mac Jones, but right now as an NFL player, CJ Stroud has yet to play a down in the NFL. So we don't really know what he is. So I put all the rookies in tier 7. They'll definitely move around throughout the NFL season. So that's my AFC quarterback tier. Mahomes is tier 1 all by himself. World of his own for Patrick Mahomes. Tier 2 is Burrow and Allen. Those are guys, in my opinion, that will win MVPs and can take you and will win Super Bowls. Tier 3, Aaron Rodgers, Lamar Jackson, Justin Herbert, Trevor Lawrence. These are guys that can definitely go out there and win an MVP or have won MVPs. They're capable of winning multiple playoff games and making a Super Bowl appearance, although only one of the guys in this tier has made a Super Bowl. So you could argue that some of these people don't belong. Tier 4, Watson, Tua, and Russ. They're capable of winning your division. If all goes well, they could win an MVP if they're healthy. And it wouldn't surprise me if they win a playoff game. And real quick, Deshaun Watson. Last year was a bad year for him. I mean, he only played in 6 games, so not a big sample size. 1,000 yards, 7 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, 58 completion percentage. But the last full season he played in the NFL, 2020, I didn't realize how incredible of a season he had. 4,800 yards, 33 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, completed 70% of his passes. Incredible stuff from Deshaun Watson back in 2020. Tier 5, Kenny Pickett, Jimmy Garoppolo, Ryan Tannehill. I think these guys all have similar games, Garoppolo and Tannehill, and Kenny Pickett too. Kenny Pickett turned the ball over a lot his rookie year. I think he definitely can improve. Garoppolo is capable with the right team around him of winning a lot of games and taking you to the postseason. Tannehill has done that in his past, but I think he's kind of out of his prime in terms of being able to do that at a high level. And then tier 6, Mac Jones, Davis Mills, Minshew. Mac Jones, Mac Jones, in my opinion, is the worst starting quarterback right now in the AFC. Besides the rookies, like excluding the rookies, he's the worst quarterback in the AFC. I'd rather have Garoppolo. I'd rather have Tannehill, Pickett. I'd rather have Russell Wilson. Like, Mac Jones doesn't provide many skills offensively at that quarterback position. Mills and Minshew, those are guys that are like replacement level starters. Like, they will start a few games for you, but if they're your starting quarterback throughout a season, you probably are you're probably looking for a quarterback in the next few seasons, because these guys are not capable of taking you to great things as your starting quarterback. So I think Mac Jones, by the end of the season, or at least by next offseason, will not be the starting quarterback of the Patriots. Will probably get another starting opportunity, but is going to be a replacement level player throughout his NFL career. So that's tier 6. And then tier 7, Stroud, Richardson, Levis, the rookies in the AFC. So that is my AFC quarterback tiers. We'll definitely do an NFC one at some point. I think next week we'll do post-draft NFL power rankings. It's going to be the only time we do NFL power rankings until like the week before the NFL season in September, October, whenever it starts. But yeah, that's going to do it for today's episode of The Franchise. We'll be back on Monday with another episode recapping whatever happens over the weekend. Remember, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, in the description of every single episode. Thank you guys so much for watching. See you later.